currently Venus and Juno are at the end of this 3-ish week journey of walking hand in hand. Venus will pass Juno, and then they will both square Uranus. This is happening as Venus is completing its phase in Leo. And this square to Uranus is the final of 3 squares. There's a lot of really important pieces to speak to, especially with consideration to the fact that we have the Mars moving to the South Node, and we're preparing for a really powerful eclipse season coming up in October. Venus is a key player. What's happening in the sky with Venus right now is really defining, really essential, and creating the ground for some pretty profound shifts and revelations and movements that will be happening over the next month and a half. So let's delve into this. Check out a recent video with Venus and Juno where I spoke more about the energetics of Venus and Juno being together for this time. In essence, this is about clarifying and refining our contracts, our agreements, our commitments, restoring them to a place of agency and dignity where respect and mutual sovereignty is at the core of it. Where that is not the case in our life is where we're going to feel a sense of entrapment or stress. It's where we will not feel in touch with our own life force, our own joy, our own creative energy. So this clarification is really essential. And it doesn't at all speak to backing out of our relationships. It might say there's changing that's happening, re-clarification of things, but it doesn't say close your heart, back away, close the doors. It says engage from a deeply loving and respectful place. And I think this is a place where we often get hooked. We think if things are changing in any relationship, not just romantic, any relationship, if the agreement and the terms aren't what we thought they should be, or it's not becoming and moving in the direction of what we expected, or even of what we agreed, that it's often a reason to close our hearts and to project some kind of adversary reality onto another person. It is, in fact, more of an invitation to re-engage from a deeply self-honoring, clear place where we know our own value, we know our own worth, and we're willing to say, hey, this isn't working. Let's really tune in about this. What's needed? What's really going on here? The invitation to stay in a place of dignity and respect is so essential because what we are able to offer to another person, the perception and the way that we are treating another and perceiving another fundamentally points to the world that we want to live in, the kind of relationships we want to experience. This is never about some kind of future moment where things will change and things will be better, or better people will come in and circumstances will change. It's always about right now. The teachings are always about how are we being with what is and with one another and with ourselves right now. What's important to recognize in this third square between Uranus and Venus is we're culminating a cycle here. There's a lot coming together. This is also getting closer and closer to the degree where Venus originally stationed retrograde. Most of the time, when things change, we remember relationships usually according to how it ended, okay? And unfortunately, as I mentioned in a recent video, that high divorce rate in the United States and in the world, and that's just talking about marriages. We make these agreements and these commitments, and very seldomly do things go as we anticipated or planned. And unfortunately, very often it ends up in a state of adversity, where people end up in a place of feeling at odds with one another. And that's unfortunate because really, there's a deeper teaching beyond the this person didn't work out or didn't give me what I needed or I can't, all the things we hold for each other. And that the deeper opportunity, the deeper teaching is when I'm not trying to make you something that you're not, when I'm not trying to make this relationship fit into the boxes that I think it should be, what happens when I honor your dignity and worth and when I honor my own, and I'm only willing to be curious about what wants to be, what happens? And I think within that is this spaciousness and curiosity to appreciate that there is a thing called what wants to be. There's a marriage. There's a meeting point between what wants to be and what we choose. The what wants to be is self-evident, it's uncontrived, and it's unforced. It's what happens fundamentally when we're not trying to make our own agenda to be. And then the thing that we choose is what we choose to do from that place. You're great just the way you are. I'm great just the way I am. You're a blessing. Our lives are a blessing. Every relationship, we can think of it in this way. What happens when we stop trying to force things and people and ourselves to what we want it to conform it to be? There's just appreciation. And like that's the 0 point from which choices can be made. Well, what do we want to do with that? How do we choose to come together? What do we want to create? There's actually this immense spaciousness for creativity, where what is explored, what is created from that place is infinitely creative. It's incredibly expansive, and simultaneously there's an openness and a sense of many possibilities, but there isn't an ungroundedness. It's founded in a place of trust and appreciation. That's where the what wants to be comes into harmony with what we choose to be. When what we choose to be feels like an effort, feels like a struggle, feels like a constant struggle with incongruency, with not being on the same page, with trying to make ourselves, and all the Libra people-pleasing and trying to be what we're not, then we never really allow the unfolding of life in its flow to lead us, to guide us. Everything wants to start according to its own nature. And Uranus, we know, is shocks and surprises, but it's only shocks and surprises because of our Saturn conditioning. You know, no one gets into a relationship or starts a new job or begins a new project with the thought, I'm going to do this for a few years, and then something really difficult is going to happen, and it's really going to throw me off course, and it's going to change, and the relationship will shift, or I'll get fired, or I'm going to get really sick, or I'll lose all my finances, and that'll be really hard. I'll deal with it, I'll grow, but I won't have a job, or, you know, my partner will find someone else, or I'll move to a different country, and I'll have to find my way. But then in another couple years, I'll read a really good book, and I'll get inspired, and I'll start my own business, and I'll explore a completely different kind of relationship, or then I'll reconnect with that person, but I'll be a new person already. No one plans for that. No one plans for the things that actually end up happening. At our best, we can recognize, let's do this, and I bet it's not going to go the way we thought it would, but let's keep an open heart and be willing to grow and learn along the way. At best. We lack an appreciation for the unfolding of the intelligent design of life. And so things feel shocking, but it's just pushing against our own Saturn conditioning, the boxes and definitions that we're always trying to put on. We want that control. We're trying to say, this is what things are, this is what things mean, and this is how it's going to be, and this is how it's going to stay. It never works out that way. I think the more we can appreciate that, the truth of that, the more we can pose ourselves, position ourselves in a stance of availability for change that says, I'm not going to put myself in jail, and I'm not going to put you in jail. I'm going to stay present to the fact of our beauty and our dignity and our worth and our deserving, and deeply curious for what wants to emerge in this wild path that we're on here in this Earth school. When we remain open to the unknown, we could appreciate there's more to see, there's more to learn, there's more that will unfold. And if we limit ourselves because of our own security patterns to hold ourselves or others at a place where we're not allowing for something authentic and organic to emerge, you can always think of Uranus as the natural congruency and symbiosis that arises in an ecosystem. When we allow any environment to just grow, there's a natural order. It's almost like an unwinding. Nature kind of just restores itself. This species grows and this one grows under it, and it invites these other species that can now create their own ecosystem because the right kind of trees are there and plants. Everything begins to come together. Community comes together. It's self-emergent. The people, places, things, etc. of our life come together on their own. When we position ourselves in a place of open-mindedness and appreciation, it's insecure. It's scary because we can't know. It's scary because we can't know what it's going to look like. It's a paradoxical movement in spiritual growth. We become more confident and more certain in ourselves and in the path, and more uncertain about what's going to happen next. But we also feel okay with that. Interestingly enough, the relinquishment of our control is sort of a relinquishment of false certainty. We never were secure. We only tried to make ourselves that. So this final square to Venus, after all this really important Juno, final square to Uranus, is really clarifying. It's almost like just take it up and shake it up. Let it loosen up and see what's there. See what's there. The blessing and the calling is to anchor ourselves in our heart. To anchor ourselves in our heart and to be willing to trust, to be willing to open, to be willing to engage every and any relationship in our life from that composed, sovereign place of witness consciousness, curiosity, and respect. That will reveal so much to us. And in the coming month or two, with these powerful eclipses coming up in the Libra-Aries axis, with Mars so active right now, it is certain there's something moving us forward. And we can trust the timing and the flow of all things to bring us forward, to take what's needed from us, and to bring us the next thing that is helpful and relevant along this journey. Thank you all for watching. Reminder that the first ever Evolutionary Astrology Online Conference is beginning very soon. It is beginning in just a couple weeks, not even a week and a half from now. This is going to be a gathering of 15 world-known evolutionary astrologers, many of whom were my original teachers. Many of them are colleagues that I've been working with for many years. It's an opportunity to immerse yourself in these teachings and learn the original teachings as taught by Jeffrey Wolf Green. It's going to be a very engaging, insightful, and beautiful gathering. Check it out in the link below. You can join the whole conference or cherry pick individual talks that call to you.